In a town where the wind spoke louder than words, and every soul carried a past heavier than lead, two broken hearts were about to collide. One belonged to a widow who had lost everything but her pride. The other, to a gunslinger whose name alone made the toughest men reach for their holsters. This is the story of Clara James and Wyatt Kane, a story carved in dust, sealed by silence, and written beneath a blood-red sunset. Scene 1, Dust Creek, 1889. Narration. The town of Dust Creek was barely a town at all, just a handful of weather-beaten buildings clinging to the edge of the desert. A saloon, a blacksmith, a church that hadn't heard of him in years. And on the outskirts, sitting lonely beneath the dying light, was a small white house with a broken porch swing. That was where Clara James lived, or rather, survived. Once she'd been the heart of the town, a schoolteacher, a wife, and soon-to-be mother. But the West is merciless. A winter sickness took her baby before it took its first breath. Bandits took her husband on a cold morning when the bank was robbed. And since then, the widow had learned one lesson above all. Love is a door best kept locked. Scene 2. The stranger arrives. Narration. On a late afternoon painted with rust and gold, a rider appeared at the edge of Dust Creek. His horse was as black as midnight, his coat frayed but sturdy, his eyes the kind that had seen far too much. His name was Wyatt Kane, a man spoken of in whispers. Some called him a killer. Others called him a savior. All agreed he was dangerous. As he rode through town, shutters closed, conversations died mid-sentence, and even the saloon piano stopped playing. Wyatt Kane, the outlaw who'd once taken down an entire gang single-handedly, had come to Dust Creek. But he hadn't come for blood. He had come for something far rarer. Scene 3. First encounter. Exterior, Clara's farmhouse, dusk. Knocking on the door. Clara, from inside, who's there? Wyatt. Name's Kane. Wyatt Kane. I'm not here for trouble. I'm looking for a place to water my horse, and maybe a glass of water for myself. A pause. Then the door creaks open just an inch. Clara, there's a trough out front. Water's fresh. You can help yourself to it. As for you, best you move on before the sun sets. Wyatt, smiling faintly, mighty kind of you, ma'am. I'll be on my way soon enough. Narration. He didn't push his way in, didn't argue, just tipped his hat and turned away. And something in that simple courtesy, in the way he respected the line she drew, unsettled Clara more than any outlaw's threat ever had. Scene 4. The past that haunts. Narration. For days, Wyatt lingered in Dust Creek. He fixed fences for the livery stable, helped the blacksmith shoe a horse, sat quietly at the edge of the saloon without touching a drop of whiskey. And every afternoon, he passed Clara's home, never stopping, never knocking, just tipping his hat as he rode by. And though she told herself she didn't care, she always found herself watching from the window. Interior, Clara's house night. Clara sat by the fire, staring at a worn photograph of her late husband. Clara, whispering it's too soon, too dangerous. You promised you'd never let anyone in again. But promises made in pain are the ones hardest to keep. Scene 5. A door cracked open. Exterior, farmyard, late afternoon. Clara was carrying a heavy sack of grain when her foot slipped on the loose dirt. She fell hard, the weight pinning her leg. Moments later, a shadow fell over her. Wyatt, easy now, gotcha. He lifts the sack with one arm and helps her up. Clara, flustered, I didn't ask for help. Wyatt, you didn't have to. Folks around here seem to forget that kindness don't cost a thing. A long silence. Then Clara, against her better judgment, gestures toward the porch. Clara, there's lemonade inside, if you're thirsty. Wyatt, grinning, thought you'd never ask. Narration. It was the first time Wyatt Kane stepped onto her porch. But even as she poured the lemonade and listened to his stories, of towns left behind and roads still to travel, she kept her heart behind the same locked door. Scene 6. The confession. Exterior, porch, sunset. The two sat watching the horizon bleed orange and gold. Wyatt, I wasn't always the man they talk about. Once I had a wife. A little ranch north of Abilene. Clara, what happened? Wyatt, men came, the kind who think taking is easier than earning. I tried to stop them. By the time the smoke cleared, I was all that was left. A long silence. Clara, I'm sorry. Wyatt, don't be. We all carry ghosts, Clara. Some just ride closer than others. Narration. For the first time in years, she saw not a gunfighter, but a man, broken, scarred, and searching for something to hold on to. And against every wall she'd built, her heart stirred. Scene 7. The warning. Interior, Clara's house night. The fire crackled low. Rain tapped gently against the windows. Wyatt rose from his chair, hat in hand. Wyatt, I should go. Don't want to overstay my welcome. As he moved toward the door, Clara's voice stopped him cold. Clara, Wyatt, please. Don't come inside again. He freezes, back turned. Wyatt, that a warning? Or a plea? Clara, both. I can't do this. I can't lose anyone else. It's better if you just ride on and never look back. A long silence. Wyatt, softly, I've been riding my whole life, Clara. But for the first time, I found a place worth staying for. Narration. And with that, he left. Not because he wanted to, but because sometimes love is measured not in how tightly you hold on, but in how willing you are to let go. Scene 8. The outlaw returns. Narration. Days passed. Then a week. Clara told herself she was glad he was gone. That was better this way. But the house felt emptier than ever. And then, one night, the past she feared came back. Not Wyatt's, but hers. Exterior, Clara's farm. Midnight. 3 men rode up under a moonless sky. Bandits, the same gang that had killed her husband years ago. They'd heard rumors of hidden gold from the bank robbery, and they wanted it. Bandit number 1. Open the door, lady, or we'll burn this shack down with you in it. Interior, Clara's house. Night. Clara clutched the old rifle her husband had left. Her hands trembled. She'd vowed never to pick it up again. But tonight, she had no choice. The door burst open, and before the bandits could take a step, a shot rang out from the darkness behind them. Wyatt, off-screen, you boys picked the wrong widow. Narration. Wyatt Kane hadn't ridden far. He'd been watching from a distance, making sure she was safe, even if it broke his heart to stay away. What followed was swift and brutal. A storm of gunfire. A final reckoning. When the smoke cleared, the men who'd haunted Clara's nightmares lay silent in the dust. Scene 9. The heart unlocked. Exterior, farmyard. Dawn. The first light of morning crept over the desert as Clara stepped out, trembling but alive. Wyatt stood by his horse, blood on his sleeve, dust on his boots. Clara, you saved my life. Again. Wyatt, smiling, just happened to be in the neighborhood. Clara, liar. You stayed, even when I told you not to. A long pause. Then she steps closer. Clara, I told you not to come inside because I was scared. But the truth is, I don't want you to leave. Wyatt, and if I stay, Clara, then maybe we both stop running from ghosts. Narration. And for the first time since the day she'd buried her husband, Clara James let someone hold her. Not because she was weak, not because she was lonely, but because she was finally ready to live again. Final scene, epilogue. Narration. The town of Dust Creek slowly came back to life. The schoolhouse reopened. The church bell rang on Sundays. And on the small white farmhouse by the edge of town, a porch swing creaked beneath the weight of 2 people who had once sworn they'd never love again. Wyatt Kane never rode on. Clara James never locked her door again. And together, they learned that even in a land as unforgiving as the Wild West, love, when it's real, will always find a way inside. Closing voiceover. In the end, it wasn't the gunfights or the past that defined them. It was a choice to open the door, to face the pain, and to build something new from the ashes of what was lost. Because sometimes the most dangerous thing in the West isn't a bullet. It's a heart that dares to hope again. The end.